Welcome back to part 2 of dropping the subframe of the 6.3, the w109. In the first video we went over a lot of the preliminary preparations, some of which you won't be doing because I'm painting the engine bay. So this one we've just got a few more things to detach, and then we'll go and drop that guy, and then I'll show you how relatively straightforward it was, and without much effort dropping it straight down onto the floor. So let's get right to it. This is the video for people that didn't want to hear all my other goings on in the first one, so you're at the right place here. This is where we're just going to actually drop the subframe. So alright, let's get on with it. Okay, so obviously we've got to have to lower the whole thing, and have enough space to be able to pull the jack out as well. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to have much help with that, as far as brother-in-law coming over and helping me, or Will's in Vermont right now, so doing stand-up comedy apparently. So I've been brainstorming this. I've still got to disconnect the steering rods, the tie rods. I've got a tie rod puller thing, so I'm not bashing on this thing. So what I come up with, piece of wood, okay, it's a solid piece of white oak, that slips on there, okay, and that'll be able to move. Okay, this will give it something to rest on when it gets down. Now I've got it locked with a block of wood up there, so it won't go too far down. It'll enable me to pull the jack out. If there isn't enough room, I can always lower it down onto some blocks and then pull the jack out, and then set one down at a time. And then the reason it pivots like that is because this might have to pivot a little bit to pull it out from the underside of the car. So anyway, so just got a bit of PVC tube in, cut to 2 inches, that goes on there. A wooden block here, that goes there, and then you might as well use the washer that comes behind the little bearing cap there, and then just tighten the whole sucker up. Looks like Fred Flintstone job, doesn't it? So I just get that tightened up. It'll still move, but get that locked into place. You see, so this can still pivot if I need to. But there you go. Plus, also this spindle's protected. I don't want to damage the spindle, but that'll give me something to land on. So there you go. I'll come up with that. Should work. This is kind of the way of removing a subframe if you haven't got any mates to help you. Anyway, let's try and get these tie rods loosened with that fancy tool there. Okay, finally got all those, well, except for this tie rod off of this one. This is a bear, this is. I tell you, I've tried all the different techniques. This thing only worked on 1 or 2 of them, because this gap on this tie rod puller thing is too wide, and it just slips because these knuckle arms aren't very thick. So with a combination of wrapping on the side of the where the hole goes in, wrapping on the side, and the pickling fork, I don't mind using this. Well, I don't like using this because I just don't like hitting stuff, because I don't want to break anything. But obviously this trashes the boots of the tie rods, but that doesn't matter anyway, because I'll replace them. So anyway, everything's disconnected now. I've just got this one, and I'm just going to leave that on until I get it off the whole system off the car, and I'll probably use some heat and stuff like that and be able to work on it. So that was a bit of a devil, that job, because those really get stuck in there. So anyway, final thing we need to do now is disconnect the Airlines and disconnect the handbrake cable, because the handbrake cable goes underneath the subframe there. So that's got to come out of the way. Other than that, the air suspension car, like I say, is a little easier because you're just dealing with the airbags, not these springs of the 108. And really the only extra thing on the 109 really is the 3 Airlines you have to disconnect. Other than that, much the same really. So anyway, on to the next stage. Before we disconnect the flexible lines, I went back and labelled all of the hose lines with these more permanent tabs. You know, I did the tape, but the you know, if you get grease and stuff on this tape stuff, it just washes off. So I've got these little metal tabs. I picked them up at Staples, I think. Just carefully went through and marked everything, so I know, you know, it's going to be some time before this goes back together, and it'll just so much easier. There's brake lines, relay lines, airlines, plus I can lead them all down to then label them under there, the 3 lines that go out to the front suspension. And then once I take all this bump off, I'll label all that as well. And I'm taking lots of pictures at the same time. So let me get these airlines off of this connection, and then the handbrake will have to be disconnected, and then we're pretty much ready to go. So okay, I've undone the airlines to these 3 lines, undid this bracket. This is held together held onto the subframe here by 2 8mm bolts, so that frees that unit up. So essentially all the air suspension is disconnected from the front subframe now. This is the handbrake cable. That's the one that you pull to activate the lever. I've disconnected the cable that operates the actual brake, you know, down the bottom. Take that lever off. I put the bolt on there. As you can see, I've labelled all the lines. I've already spoken about that. I think actually we're ready to drop this subframe, so let's get prepped for that and see how we go. I've made a platform up for the subframe, so don't damage, you know, scratch it all up. And this has got a kind of a pattern there, so this doesn't, you know, you know, slide or anything like that. So the next thing to do is to undo the engine mounts, get those bolts undone, and then obviously well, I'll put the support under, undo those, and then start hitting the frame towers, and then essentially that thing will be loose there. So, and then I'll film it and see how we get on. Like I say, I'm on my own today. Don't have help, but I don't see any problem. We're all pretty secure. And oh, by the way, this box, when I said 4 pieces of ply, I don't mean the 4 sides of it. There are 4 ribs underneath, hidden inside here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 inches of 3/4 inch plywood. So if anyone, you're thinking that that's just an empty box, it isn't. So it's ribbed inside, so it's immensely strong. This engine, from my understanding, is getting on for £800,000, but obviously it's pivoted at the back, so you know, it's held at the back, so so you're still getting about £1,000 of weight there, but it's held at the back, so we're all right on the front here, I think. And yeah, we're ready to go. So let's get this supported and start undoing those bolts. The jack's under the subframe with that square block that I made, centered as perfectly as I can get it. So now the engine, the subframe is held, obviously the main frame is held, and I'm going to start undoing all the bolts. What I've noticed has happened because of the motor mounts have essentially compressed over the years. The lines that are on the subframe, the airlines, to feed the suspension, have come very close to the underside of the engine, because the engine essentially is sinking onto the subframe because of the wear in the mount. So someone's gone in now, I'll show you once we get it out, and put looks like rubber hoses and stuff, and wrapped them around the airlines to protect them instead of just putting new engine mounts on. But they probably didn't do that because they're bloody expensive. But anyway, that's just another observation. So I've undone one engine mount. It's very easy to access when the car's in this position. It's just was it 17 19mm bolt. Wasn't on that actual tie, actually. Looks like a kind of a grade 8 bolt, I guess. Right. Essentially, the engine is no longer connected to the subframe. And now we're going to hit the towers. I've been soaking those bolts in WD-40 for some time. Anytime I've been walking past the car, I've been giving them a squirt, you know, so we shouldn't have any trouble there, but we'll see. Okay, everything's detached now. It's just resting now. So I'm going to bring that sucker down very slowly. It's cantering slightly forward because of the weight of the all of the suspension unit is going to be cantering forward a little bit. So I've just got to counteract that as I bring it down. So wish me luck. Just locking it just to get familiar with the weight, you know. I can feel we're pretty well balanced. Oops, cantering forward just slightly. Just lock it there a minute. Just going to check the other side. Ah, well, we did miss something. Oh no, we didn't. No, we're good. We're good. Just those hose lines caught up a little bit, so it's a little wobbly at the moment. That's it. Let it go down. It's cantering forward a bit, so we're good. Let the jack slowly bring it down. It's not too bad actually, it's probably about 150 pounds, something like that. Hopefully we're going down on our block on the other side. Alright, we're down on the ground. I have to jimmy it around a bit to get the jack out, so that wasn't too bad actually. So now it gives us tons of access under there, check everything out. Be able to also get that blooming starter motor on a lot easier. Certainly won't be putting it back in on my own, because taking it out on your own is alright by the looks of it, but putting it back in, that's going to be a bit of a balancing act. I'm certainly not going to do on my own. But here you go. So now you can see the guy. It's wanting to cant forward a little bit because of more of the weight on the front there. But these are the frame towers. There's a little block here. You can see. These are obviously a wear item that is good to replace. I think you can do it without dropping a subframe, but I would imagine that's a bit of a devil of a job. See, we got the steering box here. I want to check for any cracking and anything around the frame there that they've been renowned for. I don't know whether it's just the 6.3, but these are the. See, look, someone's wrapped those Airlines with another tube there because these engine mounts. See. They're pretty collapsed. I'm sure they haven't been changed for a long time, if ever. This is the flexible lines we all disconnected. So this whole air unit is all in one. So let's go around the other side. My little blocks helped. Could have probably been a little taller actually. I'll put a block of wood underneath here so I can get my jack out. So there you have it. Let me get a light on the rear. So the starter motor goes right there, and the heat shield I'm going to make. See how close the this lighting. See how close the exhaust header is to the starter motor. Tremendous amount of heat here, and that's why the starter cable just, the starter solenoid just cooked itself. Here's the steering pivot point here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably steam clean this. I'm going to get a little steam cleaner and get all that gunk off. Now it gives me lovely access to this frame. Look at that. We can continue on, and then I can get all that painted and sealed up. Let's go to the other side. Yeah, the blooming gigantic oil filter housing there. Again, I'll just give all this a good old clean up. Lovely job. So that actually wasn't too bad really. I mean, it's just a process, isn't it? I mean, you're making sure you label everything, and there's this little block idea kind of helped, I think. But once I take that jack out, the whole thing will pivot on this pivot point here, and then you can see that I am high enough that the towers clear the bottom of the motor, so I should be able to slide it out that way and then get it up on a workmate or something on the bench and start breaking this sucker down. So anyway, that's it, all slid out. These wooden blocks help quite a lot actually. You can literally pivot the whole thing by hand now, you see. If you need to pivot it back to slide it out of the car. Didn't take a sec. I actually pulled it and slid it out with the jack. So as you can see there, the lines, everything's marked with these labels correlating, because I don't want to get these. And I'm taking lots of photos as I go, making sure that everything goes back as it should. And now you can see all this. This is the area I've got to detach from. Apparently these bolts stretch. I found some play in them, and also I check all these seals, and I don't know all the seals I need to check, but I'll go through those and be in touch with everyone on the group, make sure I don't miss anything while this is all off. I hope you enjoyed that video, taking the subframe out of the 6.3, and applies to any 109, 108 chassis. The only difference is the air suspension units. Probably, like I say, a little bit easier because you don't have to deal with those springs, but main thing is label everything. That's what, especially with all the airlines, we'll get them mixed up, and then you can have the opportunity to not only do all the stuff that needs doing with the suspension, but give it a good old look over underneath. Check the frame, check that steering box area, because like I say, Simon, the moderator in maintenance, sent me a list of things to watch out for, and there was some issue with some cracking developing around where the mount is. So once I clean all that, I'll have a good old check. This is one of the bigger jobs that definitely Pierre is always talking about, with these 108, 109 chassis, to drop the subframe. That's definitely going to need doing because of the age of the vehicles and the rubber parts. It's just one of those things you can take into consideration if you ever buy one of these. If you're willing to do the work yourself, to save a ton of money obviously in labour, and also learn as you go, and do things probably that the shop wouldn't do, because they're just going to do what they need to do and put it back in again. But you can get in there and clean up, do some extra work there, save a lot of money. I say most expensive thing on this subframe for the 6.3, well, obviously the airbags, but then again, if you're diligent and you can look around, I've scored a couple of front airbags for genuine Mercedes ones for $190 a piece. I mean, that's not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than $350 or $320 that they're normally up for. But again, comparing them to other suspension parts of more modern vehicles, I don't know that that's really out of the range. Engine mounts are definitely expensive, and they're obviously something that needs doing, and you want to get the proper ones. I don't even know that any other company makes them anyway, so you got to bite the bullet with that. Best price I've found is $750 from Germany. I've seen them as high as $1,200, so that is an expense that you kind of can't get away from, but once it's done, isn't it? So, alright, well, I really appreciate you watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and then subsequent videos will be me breaking this sucker down, and I want to get some feedback about appropriate paint and colour and everything, because I know the the airbag boxes are kind of that sort of kind of funny dirty red colour. I want to put them all back to the original colour, and all the suspension, clean all the lines out, go right through it. So thanks again, guys, for watching. Appreciate it. Please hit subscribe and the like button if you like what you see, and the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye bye.